I would say before you start, you need to have different skill sets. Overlapping skill sets, that's where the challenge is going to be. We're blessed that we have entirely separate skill sets, that I don't know how to do what he does and he doesn't know how to do what I do. So, there's really very little. Occasionally we'll butt heads on, choosing a direction.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Going Beyond the Deal podcast. I'm your host, J. Michael Fischer Jr. Most of the people who join me on the show are founders, business owners, executives, and deal makers. But very few have built multiple companies, experienced multiple exits, and then made the decision to start all over again. Today, my guest is Laurel Whitney, co-founder and CFO of Push Beverages. Push Beverages is originally a New Jersey-based beverage company with 7 products lines distributed across 46 states. I might be wrong on that. I think it might be all 50 states now. But the company produces everything from carbonated sodas and flavored waters to natural teas and energy drinks. And most recently, the company launched Simply Push, a new line designed to deliver a better soda option while meeting the nutritional standards required by schools. But today, I want to go deeper than the brand, because Laurel's story is not just about beverages. It's about what happens when an entrepreneur decides to build something from nothing, successfully exits, and then chooses to do it all over again. Laurel began her career in public relations at Johnson & Johnson. She later founded Giggles PlayStation, a 22,000 square foot children's entertainment facility, which she opened in 2002 and then sold in 2010. She and her husband also built the largest independent vending company in New Jersey before selling it in 2013 to a multi-billion-dollar international corporation. Then they decided to start Push Beverages. Most founders spend years thinking about what an exit might look like. Laurel's actually lived through more than one, and she knows what it takes to feel like to build, operate, and sell. And then the next morning, decide what comes next. Push has now grown into a national brand following a straightforward promise: premium beverages at the right price. There's no celebrity endorsements. There's no Super Bowl commercials. The focus is on building a great product and offering it at an honest price, and then just allowing it to speak for itself. That approach is working. Tribe Sweet Tea was named Product of the Year by Automatic Merchandiser magazine, and Push Beverages is a certified women-owned company. Laurel and I actually go back to my years in commercial banking. She began as a client and over the years became a friend. I've wanted to have her on the show for a long time, and I'm finally glad we made it happen. Today, we're going to talk about what it actually feels like to sell a business, what Laurel learned from being on the seller side of the table, and what she's done differently as she built her next company. We will talk about scaling Push into all the different states that they're in, wearing the founder and CFO hats at the same time, competing in a category dominated by billion-dollar companies, and building a business alongside your spouse. And then finally, launching Simply Push. For any business owner who has thought about an exit, or anyone building something and wondering what the next chapter might look like, this conversation is for you. Laurel, thank you for being here, and let's go beyond the deal. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for the invitation.
It is good to see you. So I hinted at this in the beginning of your intro here, but you and I have now known each other, probably almost 10 years. You guys started as a client. No,
I think you go back more like 20.
Wow. So you're like one of my OG customers.
I think so.
I love that. I think
it's close to 20.
That's amazing. So let's go back in time, not too long ago, because Laurel's a very young lady here, but you started your career at Johnson & Johnson. And, when you were first doing that, what did you think your path was going to look like?
Oh, well, I definitely thought I was going to stay in public relations. I knew it wasn't going to be on, the worldwide corporate level, but I figured it would be with a smaller company. That was they had hiring freeze at that time and all that corporate things that go on there. So right after we got married, my husband said, "Oh, can you come and help me set up my computer system on my vending company?" So I realized there was a lot more to set up than just a computer system. So I said, "Oh, well, you know what? I'll get you set up for a year and then I'll go back and do my career." And and then we just started to skyrocket. Things just started to take off. And I really saw the potential of something to build. And rather than, use my skills for someone else, I said, well, we might as well just,
Doing
you know, do
together.
this do this thing together. I just got sucked in and we built quite an empire there with full service vending. It was really something.
So Modi, sorry, your husband Modi, I know Modi well, so I just say it by his name. Modi was starting the vending business, and then at around that time, you also had this Giggles PlayStation. I mean, you guys were really just
No,
going for
that
it.
was not for a couple of years.
Not for a couple
That
of
was
years.
I'm going back to 19 we met in 1994. We got married in 96. So, um, Giggles was not until 2001, I
Okay.
believe.
Okay.
So, yeah, there was a while. It wasn't until I had my own children that I said, "Oh, we need Giggles PlayStation. We need something like this in Morris County." So, no, there was a long time we were focusing heavily on the vending to begin with. We were working till 10 o'clock at night on most days, taking care of customers during the day. Originally, it was just us two,
Wow.
taking care of customers during the day, rebuilding machines at night, doing bookkeeping at night, putting away warehouse boxes at night. And we finally get home go to eat at 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
we knew only the late night restaurants.
Very good.
That went on for a few years. And, eventually we built up to 60 something employees.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So then
So it
what,
grew
so
to 3 states.
you ended up selling the vending company in 2013 to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Can you
Correct.
kind of talk us through, like, how did that happen? Were you approached? Did you go to market? Was it something you were thinking about, or?
Um, we really didn't go to market. I mean, we were just, attacking and building and, building routes. We moved into Pennsylvania. We built our Pennsylvania branch, and essentially we took almost all of the business from the operator that ended up buying us. So it's a situation where, if you can't beat them, buy them. So, they approached us and, originally we didn't think it was a great idea, but then they said, "Oh, well, we had already started the beverage at that point." So they said, "Oh, well, if you're not a competitor, we can start buying your product." And I said, "Well, we put that in the agreement, a certain number of cases." And they said, "Absolutely." So
Wow.
that just added the icing on the cake and made it all worthwhile. So,
Yeah.
um,
So were you guys
so it
getting a
was sort
little?
of multifaceted.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting though, but it's funny. So were you guys at that point? I'm not saying, you guys had really grinded hard on the vending business. Was the passion starting to shift to the beverage, and then this kind of gave you a jumping off point?
Well, remember, we didn't build a beverage business. We built the beverage for our own use. We didn't even want to sell it to anybody on the outside.
Really?
We built it for our vending company. In 2008, during the recession, Coke and Pepsi were raising our prices like crazy, and we had very lucrative 5-year contracts with our healthcare facilities and our corporations that had certain degree of price increase built in. but not degree of pricing that we were getting increases for. So we're like, what do we do now? Do we keep these very lucrative contracts and just wait it out and hope that, we'll lose and eventually regulate? Do we give up these contracts, or do we make these contracts work somehow? So what we did is, again, it's 2008. So we're reading all of these marketing studies that say people are now caring about value and quality. They don't care what name is on it.
Mhm.
So that really encouraged us to come out with 4 flavors of soda. We knew people were loyal to their colas. They wanted their Coke. They wanted their Pepsi. But an orange soda, people actually got excited when they saw a new orange soda, when they saw a grape, when they saw a pineapple. So we came out with 4 flavors. We named it Push, just for us. And then we started getting calls from pizzeria owners that were visiting in the ER, and deli owners and gas station owners that were visiting a hospital or a rest stop, or their wife brought it home from work and they want to have it in their store. So we started selling to a few different local stores. And then our vending distributor contacted us. They said people keep, they actually called our the 800 number we had set up, and they didn't even realize that they were speaking to us. So, and then they really wanted to carry it. And we said, this was our secret weapon. We don't want to share it. So we ended up just going to, we started to sell it, and we went from there.
Very cool. Very cool. So what was it like, going through that sale process of the vending company meeting? Because at that point, it's like you're a mom. I mean, it's like your third child, your business becomes your third child. What was that like for you guys? What was that sale process like? How did that go for you?
The due diligence was exhaustive.
Yes.
It really was, the process. And we had a family vacation planned like right before it that it was for a wedding or something. And we just couldn't, I was away and I was working till all hours of the night, sending files remote and going through all of that. So it was really exhaustive. It was really stressful. Overall, it went pretty smoothly in the end. There were some, we're very careful to make sure that all of our employees were secure and had their health benefits and their vesting in our years counted as their years. We were very, very careful with our contract. And apparently, the company that purchased us never did a contract like that and never has since. So it was, I had a lot of stipulations. I needed to make sure that I felt good about it. That was the source of a lot of stress.
Yeah.
But, at that point, we felt that the beverage could have its own legs. We were already in, I believe, 3 different distributors covering maybe 10 or 12 states.
Okay.
So we felt it could have its own legs. I mean, we weren't putting any emphasis on sales. It was sort of just all organic at that time.
Okay.
So we thought maybe if we did put the emphasis on sales, and if it didn't work, we'd find something else to do. It wasn't really a big worry. It felt like it was the right thing at the right time, because also our competitors that we were selling to started saying, oh, don't bid on this because we're your customer. So we felt we were going, if we continued, we would inhibit the growth of either the vending company or the beverage.
Got it.
So it became a conflict of interest. So it was the right thing at the right time.
Got it.
And
So,
I'm glad we did it.
yeah, for sure. So what's interesting though is like most people kind of wake up the next day after the closing And, they might have a contract they have to stay on for a couple of years. I mean, you had a very sticky relationship now with the new company that bought you because you had put this in the contract, which was very smart, by the way. So you've gotten to see how the business has done since then. Has there anything changed? Have you been happy with it? Are some of your employees still there at this time and everything?
Um, well, during COVID, they actually rented our buildings for a while, but during COVID, it just got so messy, and
Yeah,
they ended up closing that branch and distributing it. There are still quite a few employees there.
that's good. That's good.
Our main manager is still there.
Very nice.
Quite a few drivers, one or two office people, but
Yeah,
the bulk has dispersed. I mean, it's been
long time.
what,
Yeah,
15 years or something. I don't even know, 17 years.
yeah, it's crazy. So, you exited the business and now we're focusing on Push. At that point, you said you're in a bunch of different states. I mean, you know, when did that all of a sudden, what was the inflection point where it just started to really, really kind of take off for you guys with Push? I mean, now you guys have expanded into so many states. I think you told me it's all 50 states now, right?
It's actually 49.
49
49,
states.
but we're shipping samples to Alaska right now that
Love
we
it.
just met at the school show. So it might be 50 really soon.
Okay. Well, from your lips to God's ears, 50 states. I mean, when was the inflection point where it's like, you guys had got into this, you had been in the business for a while, it was going well, you exit the vending company, you're here. When did things just all of a sudden start really taking off for Push? Was there a moment?
Well, we had a 6-month period where we're still working with the new company. So we weren't doing much at that point. But then, the day after our contract was up, I think we went away for a couple days just to reset. And then we the ground running. And, as you know, Modi is a very, very gifted salesperson. And we had a full graphic wrapped sprinter that he took on the road full of samples and stopped at every vending company that he could even think of. And he just sold door to door. And then we started doing trade shows and we expanded to more distributors. And now we're getting into other channels as well. It started off as vending and food service. And now we're getting into retail and institutional, the schools, healthcare, and correction centers.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I remember you telling me about that. So that's probably a good segue into Simply Push. I mean, when you and I were catching up on this, I got some samples of Simply Push. It is amazing. 45 calories, I believe, for the can. Super refreshing. Nice treat. Doesn't taste chemical stevia like or anything like that. I mean, I felt like I was drinking a soda, which for me as a health conscious person, it's a big treat. And what was really interesting to me about Simply Push was how you told me it meets certain guidelines now that it can be sold in schools and places like that. So can you get into a little bit about that for me?
yes, the USDA has a what they call smart snack guidelines.
Okay.
And nothing can be sold during school hours that doesn't comply. So, of course, none of our Push, other than our water and our coconut water, would comply. But it was important that we met that because I see that schools right now are selling this little 8-ounce carbonated juice. And although it meets the smart snack guidelines, it's got 29 grams of sugar. It's got 120 calories and 8 ounces. That's not very refreshing.
No.
So I can imagine that some kids are having 2.
Yeah.
That's more sugar than a full soda.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really felt that we can come up with something better, something that the kids will actually buy, something that they're going to really like the packaging, something that's bright. You could see it in the background there. Something that's bright and cheerful and will get their attention and look cool. And it will still be able to bring a profit margin to the food service. So that's also important. So we did our first school show last week in Charlotte. We started big. Everybody said, wow, this is your first one. You started with the national rather than all the locals.
Of course.
But the timing was right since we just launched on May 1st. So this was the first show. And next week we have the Oklahoma School Nutrition Association show. And we plan on doing all of the local school shows as well. And we got great reviews. People really love it. They love the nutritionals. They love that it doesn't have the stevia because kids sense that stevia, that bitterness right away. And also stevia is in the ragweed family.
Yeah.
So they're not quite sure, who's reacting. Somebody with a severe ragweed reaction could actually react to stevia too and not even realize what it's coming from.
Yeah.
So we, we're really excited because we've been in the soda and juice and sweet tea space. So this is our first crack at a healthy product line. So there's a lot to learn, and we're learning as we go, as we did with the whole beverage business, and we're pushing through. So we expect to be launching in many districts. We already have commitments for September.
Wow. Well, I mean, I told you, I think you guys nailed it with Simply Push. It was really great for me. And actually, before we started the show, I asked Lo, I said, hey, where can I buy cases of Simply, Push for myself? And she said that, you have to drive out to these different stores that are going to be selling the product. And that kind of brings me to my next point is, when you think about the beverage business, you think about, all these billion-dollar brands, the commercials at the Super Bowl, the commercials during the World Cup, all of these different things. And what I've always found really interesting about Push was you obviously can compete with some of these big brands. Yeah. But the one thing you've said is I'm never going into retail. Simply Push is not going to be sold at Costco. It's not going to be sold at ShopRite or wherever you shop, right?
Well,
it's just
definitely not going to be supermarket.
Not supermarkets, right?
It will definitely not be a supermarket brand. Yeah. I want it to be something. Well, first of all, supermarkets are very complex, and
yes,
Coke and Pepsi buys up all of the premium space. So it's not really worth it. But we want it to be something that people have to support a small business to go to.
Yeah.
We don't sell direct to any customers. We don't ship.
Yeah.
Support our stores and our distributors.
But that's an interesting way to grow a beverage brand, right? Because you guys were going to try to be where I see other people trying to be the next Coke and the next Pepsi. And it's almost like a fool's mission, right? How are you
going to... They end up cannibalizing themselves because...
Yep, exactly.
If people can order it delivered at home for half the price that they buy it in the store, why would they ever buy it in the store? Why would they ever buy it at their work vending machine? Yep. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We want it to be a destination almost.
Yeah.
To pick up our products. So
I love it. So I have to get into this because this is very, unique. I don't think I could have done it personally, but you built, multiple companies, with your spouse. That is a huge challenge. Now, I know Laurel and Modi pretty well. I know the two different people that they are. So I don't have to ask the question, how do you divide responsibilities? Because I know where we're going to put Modi, right? He's going to be out there selling the beverage. But, what does a strong partnership like that look like behind the scenes? How have you guys been able to maintain such a healthy marriage? You have, two amazing children, all these years, and be in the business together.
Well, a lot of patience, a lot of love.
Yeah.
We started sharing a desk, and I'm very neat and organized. And let's just say he's not.
Okay.
So that was a challenge. But, since then, we've evolved into our separate offices, sometimes even separate floors in our old building. And I'm quiet, and he's very boisterous and loud on the phone. So it's been an evolution. We're very compartmentalized. I handle the finances and the production, and we both work on the R&D together, the new ideas, new products. And he runs the sales and, customer service aspects of these things. So we really have our own departments, and we've gotten good at really not crossing each other's departments. We'll ask for advice, or, let me read this to you. How does this sound? We'll bounce things off of each other. But I guess after 32 years working together, it's a well-oiled machine at this point. I think it's almost effortless. The only thing is that we'll wake up in the middle of the night and we'll realize that the other one is up, and we'll start talking about business or something.
Yeah.
So, we're never really off the clock.
Yeah.
So it's hard to devote our own, husband and wife time without getting into business or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's really at this point the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, that was my next question, is like, how do you, are there certain boundaries that help prevent the business from consuming your family life? I mean, do you guys have like certain time off where it's like with the boys, like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to stop for a while, or is it just, it's too much?
I think we haven't been great at that because, things pop into your head, or you read a text, or you get a phone call and you end up discussing it. So
yeah,
we haven't been great. We did a really good job at successfully making sure that our children don't want to ever own a business. So
interesting. So is there any advice that you would give to couples that are considering, building a company together?
I would say before you start, you need to have different skill sets.
Absolutely.
If you have overlapping skill sets, that's where the challenge is going to be. We're blessed that we have entirely separate skill sets, that I don't know how to do what he does, and he doesn't know how to do what I do. So, there's really very little. Occasionally we'll butt heads on, choosing a direction, but you have to have the separate skill sets, and you have to define jobs, who does what, and you have to have respect for each other. When you disagree, you have to just disagree on the business aspect, not say, oh, that's a bad idea, that's stupid. You have to have a respect that I hope you'd have with anybody you work with, but you definitely need to have it with a spouse.
Absolutely.
On an extra level, because you take that home too.
You certainly do. So what, what's next for Push Beverages? I mean, so obviously we got into it now. You guys are now in 49 states. You're making the push with the healthy sodas with Simply Push. And I now we're going into schools. What's next for the brand?
We're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. I have actually 5 more Simply Push flavors in the works.
Nice.
With a little interesting twist on some of the flavors. So
very cool.
We're working on that. We'd like to build more into the small format retail aspect, more of the convenience stores and fuel stations and so forth. And of course, the schools and healthcare. We want to be really the drink of choice in healthcare. We even have some healthcare organizations looking to replace their sodas with ours in their patient meals, which I never imagined. Yeah.
Well, I think it makes that makes a ton of sense, right? But that's great. That's great. So I like to ask this, to all of my guests that join me. I call it my $1 million question. So, when you look back at your journey, both personally and professionally, what's one moment that felt really small, but ended up changing everything for you?
Well, between my bachelor's and my master's, actually every summer I would apply to temp agencies for summer work.
Yeah.
So I applied to a temp agency for for a job in between my bachelor's and my master's. And they called me on the first day. And I really didn't want to, I wanted to unpack. I wanted to see my friends and do a couple other little things. I wanted a
Relax
day
a bit.
vacation.
Yeah.
But I was, what if they don't call me for a couple weeks? I need the income there. So I took the job on the first day that I came back from right after graduation. And that's where I met my husband, filling vending machines. So if I would have said no to that temp job, I probably would have stayed in public relations. There would be no Push Beverages, and we'd be in, very, very different places right now. So that little choice to sacrifice my couple days off after graduation, really changed the trajectory of so many things and so many lives attached to it also.
I love it.
So that's definitely been one decision that definitely caused a lot of twists and turns.
Well, that was probably one of the best answers that I ever got. So I love that. I love that. So before we wrap up, what's the best way for people to learn more about Push Beverages?
Our website, which is just pushbeverages.com. Don't forget the S at the end. We're on Simply Push is on Instagram. I think it's Soda Simply Push.
Okay.
And you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always posting about our trade shows and our journeys and sales expeditions. And
very cool. Well, we'll put everything in the show notes because, we have a lot of, various different types of listeners. So, anybody that's interested in, perhaps stocking this in their own vending machines that they might have, any hospitals or anything like that, and that Push is not already in, please reach out to Laurel and the team so that we can get you sorted here. Because I told you, Simply Push is absolutely amazing. So what I wanted to just finally say is, for anyone listening, if you're a business owner or operator thinking about how decisions around growth, capital, or long-term strategy could affect your company, these are the exact kind of conversations that I have every day. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can have is a second perspective, and from someone willing to ask the right questions and help you see the entire field. So please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And if you found this episode valuable, please subscribe to the podcast, share it with someone in your network that you think would benefit from hearing Laurel's story. And Laurel, thank you for going beyond the deal with me today. I've wanted to have this conversation for a long time, and I really appreciate you sharing not only what you've built, but what you've learned through all these exits, the difficult decisions, and then the experience of starting them again. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you and Modi when you're back in New Jersey here.
Thank you, Michael. Good to see you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right, let's continue to build something meaningful together, guys. Have a good day.